cannot. So they're definitely in a battle.
Yeah, so as a result, here we are. Both players ready. Jensen on your left, Cox on your right. We got Jund versus Blue Red Flash. Blue Red Flash, the Matthew Costa build. Jund, the Pat Cox build, because Pat Cox is the Jund aficionado.
Yeah. I talked to him a little bit before the tournament, asked him if he was playing Reed's list, Reed Duke. However, he said, yeah, with a few changes, which is pretty typical Pat Cox.
Yeah, a little deviation here as Jensen's going to play Sulphur Falls and he's going to cast an Augur Ball. Syncopate going to go to the grip.
That may have been the first time I've ever seen an Augur Balls hit on camera.
Yeah, it's rare. It's a rare thing that we have happen here.
You know, I always tell people when they get frustrated by playing Augur Balls, well, it looks like Pat kept a one-lander. Probably got a bunch of Farseek sitting over there, but
certainly.
Syncopate from Huey gonna lock that down. But to continue what I was saying, I'm sorry. So when you play with Augur Balls, you have to have this mindset going in that you have to be overly happy to have a 1/3 for 2 mana in your deck. That has to be something you just have to have in your mindset because you will miss so much and you cannot get frustrated. It should just be Christmas morning whenever you hit. But that should not be the norm. It should just make you happy.
And this is the reason that I've never cast that card before.
Sure.
I cannot come
cannot
to terms
handle
with
the
that.
swings.
No, I cannot. As you see, Augur Balls is getting into the red zone twice here against Cox. There's a clifftop retreat from Jensen, and he's going to pass the turn back. So he does actually draw a land.
Right. He does have a Snapcaster Mage in hand, which can flash back the Azorius Charm should Pat not do anything. But I think Huey probably going to either counter this or burn it somehow. Syncopate, and then now Snapcaster can Syncopate for 2 next turn, get a little more pressure on the board for Huey as well.
So our ball is going to come across. You see Jensen does have,
Ooh,
oh my goodness.
And the new Tectonic Edge blowout.
So this is like Tectonic Edge, but it's actually just a land destruction spell, so Encroaching Waste.
So Pat didn't even have a chance to get to 4 mana, just got naturally destroyed by the old 4 mana tap sack, destroy your land.
Yeah, destroy target non-basic. You can see Encroaching Waste on the screen. You also see Augur Balls coming in yet again as Jensen's going to play a Steam Fence and pass the turn back. Cox peels off a Root Bound Crack and cast Farseek, but I think we both know that's not resolving.
Yeah, Snapcaster Syncopate for 1 takes care of that. Pat's still lacking black mana, so even if he has a Tragic Slip or Dreadbore or some other removal spell in hand, can't cast it.
Jensen draws his 2nd copy of Encroaching Waste. He's going to blow up another land here. Unbelievable.
What, how rude. That's just rude.
You know he only has 2 in his deck, right?
Yeah, he drew them. Dude, you play the cards so you draw them. That's how Magic works.
So, Jensen's going to untap. He's going to come in for 3, going to knock Cox down to 11 through a Pillar of Flame. We'll see if he has a land or anything here, because he can start to be on the burnout plan. You see a Pillar of Flame and a War Leader's Helix.
8. We missed the attack from last turn, but
make it 4.
War Leader's Helix plus a couple of Pillar of Flames, I think that should be all she wrote.
And so, Cox is going to concede the game, so William Jensen going to win game number 1 over Pat Cox. Blue, White, Red Flash up a game over Jund. Again, Huey kind of like free-rolling right now. Yeah, I mean, Jund, I don't think Jund has lost on camera yet today either. So
yeah, we were talking about that last round, me and Ari.
Yeah, Huey is the savior right now, trying to be the first one to derail a Jund deck here. As we're going to take a look at the sideboards, we're going to start with Pat Cox because he is going to be on the play this game. And outside of needing to draw lands, his options, they're actually plentiful because we saw Pat play against Ali Antrazi playing Esper. He has 2 Duress, 2 Underworld Connections, 3 Liliana of the Veil, and then another Rakdos is returned to bring him up to 3 after sideboard, able to side out a healthy amount of his removal. Probably wants to leave some in to take care of Restoration Angel and Augur Balls.
Right, and usually the instant speed ones, you know, things like Dreadbore can come out. Although Putrefy and Doomblade, maybe leaving like 2 to 3 of those. I think Tragic Slip can definitely come out, and probably the Abrupt Decay. So, like you said, does have a healthy amount of cards he can side out without a lot of drawback. You know, there aren't a lot of targets for those things in Huey's deck, namely just Restoration Angel. But again, that is one of his only way to win, so you want to be able to deal with it.
And the rest of the cards in Cox's sideboard: 2 Pillar of Flame, 2 Barter and Blood, a Curse of Death's Hold, a Grafdigger's Cage, and a Tragic Slip. Not so much here, so those are going to stay at home. And as you said, that removal is going to come out.
Yeah, Huey's deck, you know, he wants to keep in all the counter spells. There aren't a whole lot of counter souls running around right now in these Jund decks. Not really afraid of the rewinds, not really afraid of the syncopates or counterfluxes. I don't know why. Those cards are really good against them.
Yeah, I think they're fantastic against them.
So, you know, Huey does have access to 5 counter spells against Pat Cox in the main deck. The sideboard doesn't really have a whole lot going on for this matchup. It's possible he may want a few Oblivion Rings to take care of the opposing Garrix, the opposing Lilianas, since those can be fairly problematic. Maybe just Thundermail Hawkeye to get big. You know, once Pat Cox starts destroying his hand with things like Duress, he needs to have a finisher, and if he expects Pat Cox to board out a lot of removal, something like Thundermail could actually just take over the game.
Yeah, and that's a strategy that we saw Matthew Costa employ a ton when we were at Grand Prix Miami. You know, just kind of flipping the script on people by boarding in Thunder Maws when they were boarding out the removal, or, you know, people are trying to board into a long game against Bullet Red Flash, and Costa would just say, turn 5, Thunder Maul you, and just put them on the back foot, which is a place they were not comfortable being at all.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Renounce the Guilds is another option from Huey to be able to deal with Huntmaster of the Fells. Not a whole lot of that, maybe an Olivia Voldaren, but Olivia is another card that's actually not that great against red, white, blue either. You know, if you try to cast it on turn 3 or 4, like off of a Farseek, you know, it's going to die to most removal spells out of Huey's deck. But yeah, other than that, you know, there's not a whole lot going on from Huey's side. His main deck is pretty well set up, I think.
Yeah, so we'll see how it's going to go. I think I do think that this matchup does favor Blue Red Flash, especially with the setup that he is in Game 1. I think Game 1 he's going to be a favorite a pretty heavy amount of the time. Of course, Cox not playing any lands going to make it a lot easier. Yeah. But after sideboard, you know, Cox, again, the thing I like about Jund decks in Standard is that, you know, they're this Game 1 deck that hedges against everything, and then the sideboarded games, they can really tailor their deck to the matchup they're playing against.
Yeah, I agree. And that is one of their strong suits. Another thing from the Blue-Eye Reds perspective is that not a lot of people are playing Slaughter Games anymore, and Slaughter Games is one of the most potent weapons for taking care of Sphinx's Revelation from these grindy mid-range decks, and Pat Cox not having access to it means he's going to be heavily reliant on Rakdos Return to pressure Williams' hand, as well as Duress to make sure that he can resolve his spells.
Yeah, it's been a long time actually since we've seen Slaughter Games. You know, it was kind of big around the Invitational in December, that Reduke one. That was kind of a strategy to be able to beat those Bant control decks, take the Revelations, make them play a fair game. Yep. But it's been a long time since we've seen Slaughter Games from Jund decks or just decks that have black and red mana.
Yeah. Coming to play tapped land from Pat Cox means is either a Wolf Run or another coming to play tapped land. Luckily for him, it's a Wolf Run. So Farseek coming online, hopefully to threaten a Huntmaster on turn 3.
Jensen gonna pay 2, and we're gonna play the Augur of Bolas game.
Let's see if we hit. You know, maybe oh, that's a counterflux, not an Staticaster. I was very confused for just a second. But this is probably why Huey is 7-0, is because his Augur Bolas are actually
that's what it is.
spells.
That's what it is. It couldn't be anything else.
Has nothing to do with possibly being one of the best players in the world. Has nothing to do with the rest of his deck.
Yeah. As here is that turn 3 Huntmaster of the Fells that you spoke of. There's your Wolf token. Here comes your 2 life. So Cox going to move up to 22 as Jensen's going to untap. And he's behind on mana, behind on the board. So he's got some catching up to do.
Yeah. It looks like he peeled a Glacial Fortress. I don't think he had another land to play for the turn. Maybe a Sacred Foundry hidden in there somewhere. Turn and burn, killing the Huntmaster.
It's a good start.
Yep. And tapped Sacred Foundry. A little bit of defense from this Augur of Bolas. Not really well set up against Wolf Run, but you're always happy if your opponent attacks and activates Wolf Run on turn 4 as opposed to, you know, deploying some large threat like another Thrag Tusk or another Huntmaster.
So here is another Huntmaster of the Fells. Wolf token, 2 more life coming in. But if you're Jensen, you're probably pretty happy because you didn't have land plus Garrick Primal Hunter come into play. Yeah. So it kind of dodges the bullet there as Cox does not have a land, and we don't have a good look at his hand outside of another Huntmaster of the Fells as Jensen does draw a Sulfur Falls for the turn. So we'll see how he wants to navigate the next couple turns here.
Yeah, so he's got a couple lands to play. It looks like there's a few red spells hanging in there. It looks like possibly a Thunder Mahokite. I know he's got the Counterflux, but it's unlikely he's going to hold up for it this turn because that'll allow the Huntmaster to flip, and it'll be much harder to deal with. Main phase Think Twice is going to hopefully prevent that, but holding up a Zorius Charm here to maybe protect from Kessig Wolf Run, maybe even put the Huntmaster back on top so he can Counterflux it on the way back down.
Steam Vents was the draw for the Think Twice there from Jensen before he does pass the turn back, as Cox is going to draw his card. Probably no miracles in his deck after sideboard. I bet those bonfires are long gone by now. But attacking is pretty easy here, especially when you do have a Wolf Run activation at the ready to push through that Augur of Bolas, or at least attempt to.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty decent play to block the Huntmaster because if he does, you know, Pat does kind of want to kill the Augur Bolas so his 2/2s can get in there without having to use the Wolf Run. But Huey opting to block the Wolf. We're going to target the Wolf with the Azor Charm. This is going to prevent the Huntmaster from flipping and keep the Augur around to do a little more defense.
So 4 damage going to get through. Augur going to pass back again. Cox without a 5th land, so Jensen's going to draw a card. He finds a Sphinx's Revelation. He's a little bit of ways from that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think Sphinx's Revelation is necessarily the card you want to draw in this particular spot. All you want to do right now is, you know, empty your hand and then draw Sphinx's Revelation after that. Hopefully he doesn't get duressed over the next few turns because he's going to want to, you know, use most of his resources dealing with the Huntmaster of the Fells, or just trying to kill Packhawks with this Thundermaul Kite, and then refuel later after he's been attritioned out by the Jund player.
So Thundermaul comes across, going to hit Cox for 5, put him down to 19. Doesn't look like Cox has a 5th land just yet. If he is, he's going to take his time before he plays it. Going to come across here for some damage. And we're not going to see a Wolf Run activation. So Jensen is now kind of on the aggressive end. Here is a duress that you spoke of. We're going to see a hand of another Thundermaul Kite, that counterflux that we know about, Sphinx's Revelation, and a Steam Fence. So now all of a sudden, and this is what Costa did so very well at Grand Prix Miami.
Looks like a turn 2 clock to me.
Yeah, just flipping it and actually becoming the aggressive deck instead of the pure control deck.
Yeah, so probably going to take the Sphinx Revelation. It's almost 100% that Huey's going to be playing Thundermaul next turn as opposed to holding up for the counterflux. And the Sphinx Revelation, one of the easier ways for red, white, blue to overpower these Jund decks. But Doomblade taking care of one of the Thundermaws. Huey now not looking as threatening, but I definitely think he wants to keep trying to prevent the Huntmaster from flipping and also pressuring.
And he is going to do both of those things. Thundermaul Hellkite going to come across again. Jensen going to play Steam Fence. Cox going to go down to 14, and we're going to pass it back. So let's see if Cox can ever find that 5th land, and if so, what he can do with it.
Looks like he's holding on to Mono Thragtusk, so he's got a lot he can do. Thragtusk actually reasonable against Thundermaul Hellkite. You're not really progressing the board too much, but you are stifling the bleeding while being able to start swinging back for 5 over the next few turns.
This is a Putrefy. Okay, so Cox, being a savvy Jund player that he is, he does leave in some removal, just as you mentioned, leaving in the instant speed removal spells, so he can snag Restoration Angels, maybe Augur of Bolas in response to Restoration Angel, or in this case, multiple Thundermaul Hellkites, so he's not just dead in 2 turns.
Yeah, that duress pretty backbreaking now that both the Thundermaul Hellkites are dead from Huey's side. He's got a counterflux that he can sit on, but that means the Huntmaster is going to flip, deal him 2 damage, and potentially do him a lot of extra damage along with that Wolf Run if Packhawks doesn't draw a land and start casting Thragtusks.
So Jensen's turn is going to start with flashing back Think Twice, making sure that Huntmaster of the Fells will not flip into Ravager of the Fells to start Cox's next turn. The question is, what's he going to do after that? He does have to be pretty careful. Does he want to leave up Counterflux? Does he actually want to tap out to cast something? You see him rearranging his mana, trying to come up with a line of play here. He's going to go with Oblivion Ring to actually take care of the problematic Huntmaster.
Yeah, and a pretty safe bet that Packhawks doesn't have Abrupt Decay left in his deck. I think that's a good play. A lot of people afraid of cards like Abrupt Decay will just take the Wolf token and get rid of it completely, but Huey knows that Packhawks probably doesn't have it, and also it's just better for him in the long run because when that Huntmaster flips, it just becomes really tough to deal with.
Again, Cox's deck list, he has 1 Abrupt Decay throughout his 75, so even if he does have the one that he left in, he's got to have it in his hand right now.
Sure, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, and so here is a replacement Huntmaster of the Fells, 2 life, and another Wolf token, so Cox keeps adding to his board, and of course if you're familiar with Jensen's list, or Matthew Costa's list, which is where he got it from, Supreme Verdict is a card that these guys really do not play. He does have 2 in his main deck, but oftentimes in this matchup they do sideboard them out.
Yeah, I'm not sure I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. I think that Supreme Verdict is pretty good against Jund, specifically because of Huntmaster of the Fells. Now that they play Scavenging Ooze, which they're likely leaving in just to be able to apply pressure to you and to kind of turn off your Snapcaster Mages. And as we see on this Augur of Bolas, it looks like there is a Supreme Verdict in the stack. But he opts to take the Think Twice, looking more to the long game and trying to beat the Huntmaster with card advantage as opposed to just sweeping the board, now that he has a solid 3-4 defender on his side.
So Restoration Angel blinking the Augur is going to give Jensen a Think Twice again, does put Supreme Verdict towards the bottom, so he did leave at least one of the 2 in his deck for this sideboarded game, as we're going to again see if Cox can actually find that 5th land, as Jensen does have the mana available for a counterflux for whatever Cox does play this turn, if he deems it worthy of a counterspell.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that even if Pat does draw a land, he just wants a Wolf Run for 2 to potentially kill the Restoration Angel in combat. But however, it looks like he didn't draw the land. He's going to play a Scavenging Ooze, but Huey counterfluxing, just trying to prevent things from coming online. And also to give his top decks a little more life should he draw a Snapcaster Mage. He can still Sphinx's Rev for, it looks like, for 3 if he draws a Snapcaster Mage now. So.
And again, you see him just play a Sulphur Falls for the turn. He does have, again, that Think Twice and a Mystery card in his hand right now. Not quite sure what that is. And, we haven't really been able to make out Cox's hand at all right now. But, of course, we know he's spell laden. That's the one thing that we do know.
He's got gas.
Yeah. And Think Twice is going to start here for Jensen. Syncopate,
Ooh.
a pretty good draw there, actually.
Yeah, so now it looks like Huey's in a really good spot. He's got a soft lock on the board against the Huntmaster with the Restoration Angel and the Augur Bolus. Syncopate for a potential Thragtusk or whatever the next play from Pat is. And a potential Think Twice flashback to allow Huey to keep the Huntmaster from flipping.
So Cox finally with a 5th land in the form of Rootbound Crag. He's going to start his turn by attacking with Wolf tokens. So, Augur Bolus there, Restoration Angel there. Going to pump this Wolf to take down Restoration Angel. It's going to bite the dust. And that means he's not interested in casting a spell, so this is going to force Jensen to actually play something. This looks like it's going to be a Revelation for 3.
No, this is actually a smart play. He could have main phased the Sphinx's Revelation for 5, but he also wanted to make sure that Pat didn't play anything that was really backbreaking, so he was able to basically sacrifice 1.5 cards because he main phased the Think Twice in order to make sure that the Syncopate stayed online, and he could have just countered something, then untapped and main phased it the next turn if he really wanted to.
Sure.
Since Pat opted to just Wolf Run, that gave Huey a window to draw a few extra cards, maybe draw some answers to what's currently in play.
So of the cards that Jensen did draw, one of them is a Sphinx Revelation. He's going to start his turn by casting a Think Twice, so no flip for Huntmaster of the Fells. There is a War Leader's Helix, and you see a Hallowed Fountain pull towards the front of his hand as well. So he is cooking with gas right now as he plays a land and passes the turn back.
Yeah, this game looking much better for Huey now that he did resolve that Sphinx's Revelation for 3. The Think Twice is obviously very good against Huntmaster because it's very rare that against a Think Twice opponent you're going to be able to flip the Huntmaster on your own turn as well as their turn. So it's really tough to figure out whether you should time walk yourself to trigger it. Wolf Run makes it a little bit easier, especially when you're a little land light, not able to actually cast the spells in your hand. But now that he has 5 land, it looks like Pat's going to start playing Thragtusks and hope one of them lives, but it doesn't look like that's going to be happening.
So Syncopate is going to take care of the first Thragtusk. There's an Overgrown Tomb for Cox, so he does draw back-to-back lands, going to pass the turn back. And I'm with you. I think if you're on Cox's side, it's time to start deploying those threats and run through this counterspell wall that Jensen has. Hopefully he doesn't have too many of them or Snapcaster Mages or what have you, but you got to get through this wall eventually.
Yeah. It's unlikely that Wolf Run at this point is going to do anything because of so many powerful instants from the blue-red-white flash deck. Huey has War Leader's Helix in hand. I'm pretty sure he has an Azorius Charm in hand. So he can basically just play, a draw spell on his turn. I guess it looks like he's going to War Leader's Helix on his turn now he doesn't want to flip, but he also wants to make sure that, he has to play a spell, and I think that's the one he wanted to play. So
he's going to play an untapped Hallowed Fountain. He's going to push himself down a little bit here and pass the turn back.
Yeah,
so
in case he gets duressed, he played it so he could Sphinx the Revelation for 3 if that was the play that Pat Cox was going to make, was a duress this turn.
Okay. So Cox going to draw a card, does have 6 mana, starting to be able to operate a little bit here, but it might be too little too late. We're going to find out.
Yeah, Huey's sitting on a counterflux as well. I find it unlikely that Pat's going to be able to break through this wall of card advantage and permission.
But again, Cox has kept his hand hidden, from both you and I and everyone at home. So we don't really know what he's working with. If he has a Garrett, Rakdos Return, Duress to kind of push another spell through, not sure.
So what you're saying is that he should show me what he's working with?
I did not say that. That is, none of those words were said out of my mouth. As you see, Cox is reaching, and he's going to start with a Garrett Primal Hunter.
Yep. I find it highly doubtful that this is going to stick.
Yep.
Counterflux from Huey's side, and looks like he's going to untap and have access to a gigantic Sphinx's Revelation, which should close the door on Pat, assuming that Huey doesn't draw every single land left in his deck off of the Sphinx's Revelation.
And the Steam Vents untapped has got to be a sinking feeling for Cox, because that they wouldn't take 2 damage, they didn't have to, unless there's a Revelation coming. There's
it's
almost
either
nothing
a Revelation or only a Snapcaster Revelation.
Yeah. It's Revelation based.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Especially when they don't count their lands first, to make sure, maybe he wants to cast Aetherling and then hold up a counter spell or something. No, he just land go. Your turn. I'll take 2. That's fine.
So Cox taking a look at his hand, trying to figure out what he does want to do here in a very, very difficult situation here against Jensen.
The problem here is that one guy can probably Rakdos Return for 4 or 5, but the other guy can draw 9 cards.
Yep.
So even if he does draw every land in his deck, he can discard those and keep all the good ones.
Yep. He can do that. Cock's going to tap 5 mana. He's going to go for a Thragtusk. Not terribly confident about it, but it is going to resolve, so he's going to go up to 21. He's going to add a 5/3 to his board. But Huey, Huey's going to be around that 21 area as well in just a moment.
Yeah.
Because there's a Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, that's fine.
Too.
That's fine, man. Let's see if we can hit one of those 2 Supreme Verdicts, maybe clear the way, and then maybe start getting some Restoration Angel beats in. Maybe finish him out with a little bit of War Leader's Helix Snapcaster Mage action.
8 cards are coming from Jensen. Maybe it's going to be 7?
No, it's 8.
Okay, that's 8. There we go. Yeah, he put one back and wants to make sure he has the right number.
Yeah.
So
don't want to get a game loss for drawing extra cards here. That would be deplorable.
Yes.
Especially with his Hall of Fame chances on the line.
Yeah.
Never want to draw extra cards.
So he's going to untap after drawing 8. He already had 1, so that's going to be 9. It's going to make it 10. Restoration Angel.
It looks like Turn and Burn can take care of that Thragtusk pretty easily. A Moorland Haunt should give him a little bit of staying power against, all the removal left in Pat's deck.
in comes Augur Boss.
Good bluff.
Yeah.
Good bluff. Yeah, pretty sure it's just Supreme Verdict, before he wants to play his Angels and stuff like that, so.
Okay, so he's going to turn. It looks like he's going to turn and then Verdict, or burn and Verdict, whatever.
No, he turned in, or either way. I guess it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Had turn and burn.
Still counts. Yeah, he's just going to pass the turn back. So, and the reason you saw him do that, kind of just use those spells, is because you just want to get the spells out of his hand and not have to discard.
Right.
Here's a Farseek here from Cox. Great on turn 2, pretty meh every other part of the game.
Dude, we were talking about how he was struggling for lands, and now he's just got plenty.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works out. He's going to end up drawing some eventually. As here comes a Moorland Haunt activation. Going to remove a card. Going to put a 1/1 Spirit Token into play. See if we got any Tar Martells laying around.
Man.
And we don't. Sorry, Tom.
Man, I'm actually kind of frustrated because neither Thragtusk has put a Todd Anderson into play.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Well, at least we've seen a lot of goblins out there today, so I understand.
Oh, did we? There was lots
No.
There was a lot of Kratos command last match, but they didn't use SETI tokens.
Yeah.
That's just embarrassing.
I agree. I have to talk to some of our people here, maybe our directors, people who are working the floor. I don't know. Here comes an Augur of Balls. Is this one going to hit? Are we going to go 3 for 3?
Oh, Brick
Reality!
City.
Back to how Augur should be working.
Yeah.
To the bottom.
So it's actually pretty interesting to note that Huey could have end of turn played a Restoration Angel to get in more damage, but he opted to wait a turn. So he just made a Moorland Haunt token, so he missed 2 damage, but he's able to potentially get an extra trigger off of an Augur of Bolus. And while it may not matter at this point because he's so far ahead, you always want to make sure that you don't, randomly lose because you made some very minor mistake 10 turns before the game ended.
You're going to see a Rakdos return here from Cox. He does know about the rewind.
Yeah.
Jensen going to cast a Snapcaster Mage. He's going to target Counterflux. He's going to counter it with that. And depending on how much mana he has left here at the top of the screen, I think he does have enough to be able to cast Restoration Angel. But he's going to remove a creature, put a spirit into play, and keep doing damage that way.
This is also kind of smart. He is playing around a little around Bonfire of the Damned by not putting his Restoration Angels into play.
Sure.
He doesn't have too many actual threats left in his deck. He has maybe 1 Thundermaw Hellkite, and then every creature left in his graveyard, as well as maybe like 2 Restoration Angels, I think. So, there's the small world scenario where Pat Cox has enough removal to actually kill every single creature in Huey's deck, and then ultimately deck him. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case this match.
So here's a Garrett Primal Hunter from Cox. He's going to try to resolve this. That's perfectly fine, says Jensen. Again, he does have that rewind in his hand, and Cox does know that. But this is going to go up. A Beast Token's going to come into play. We'll see if we have any Todds. As you're going to see Jensen count his deck.
I bet you
really
$1 a Todd is not put into play.
Decline. Just made it.
Yeah. They have turtles. They don't have
That's
TAs.
not you?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, buddy.
No problem.
There's my boss, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good burn. Here's a Restoration Angel.
Pretty sure this War Leader's Helix Cummins is going to be a better burn.
It's probably a pretty good choice.
Okay,
Is
maybe
he just going to rev?
Yeah.
All right, so he's going to rev,
Yeah,
get a little
fine.
deeper into his deck.
Fine.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Plus 7 cards, plus 7 life for Mr. Jensen. And what he's doing basically right now is he's just closing all the doors on this game. And Cox realizes that he's going to concede the game. Olivia Valder in the last card in his hand. So
Huey still having all these, still had this rewind, still had this Azorius Charm,
he still had everything, and he still has more wins. 8-0 now for Mr. Jensen. He's going to win the match. Defeats Pat Cox 2-0.
Eliminating him from top 8.
Unfortunately for Cox, yes, eliminating from top 8, going to give him his second loss. But Blue Red Flash is now a lock for top 8. We'll see if Jensen's going to be the 1 seed or not. Tough loss and tough pairing for Pat Cox here too, having to get paired against Jensen, one of the better players, and does get the pair up where Jensen understands that Cox does have to play. So, Blue Red Flash, Huey Jensen, locked for top 8 now. Pat Cox, 6-2, one of the best young players in the world, but his second loss, unfortunately.